Hello and a very warm welcome to the At the Races Grand National Preview. We're having a look at all the top races and, of course, the big one itself. I'm joined by Mick Fitzgerald, of course, won the race. Sean Boyce knows everything you could possibly need to know about the race. But before we talk to the lads, let's have a look at the runners because, as ever, it's as competitive as you're going to get. Synchronised heads the market, the Cheltenham Gold Cup winner. West End Rocker, Alan King's horse, 11-1. Junior, well, he's been trained for the race. He's a 12-1 chance. Kappa Blue, Giles Cross. You can go on through all of them. But let's start off with the favourite, Synchronised, and hear from his jockey, Tony McCoy.
John Joe's pretty happy with him, so we'll have to see. You know, I'm looking forward to it. He was obviously very tough and brave to win the Gold Cup. And he's got a lot of weight in the national, but he's a classy sort of horse. He's won a Welsh national and a Midlands national, so he stays well. And if he does take his chance, then hopefully he'll give a good account of himself.
There's been a lot of talk about his jumping maybe not being ideal for a race like that, but at the same time he's careful enough. Do you think he's got the right attributes to make it in that race?
Look, it's one of those races that you go out on horses and you think they're going to be very good, and you're going to get good rides off them, and you get the complete opposite. And I've ridden horses that I wasn't looking forward to, and they got round and they jumped pretty well, you know. So it's one of those you never know until you try. So he's a real tough horse, and he tries. So and he's surprised us a lot in the past. So
he might have one more up his sleeve.
Well, if you fancy Synchronised, it's good to know that your jockey's very confident about his chances. Let's start off with Mick Fitzgerald, of course, who's won the race. 14 times you've ridden in the race. Would you like to be on Synchronised?
I think you'd be willing to take a punt on him. There's no doubt he's the best horse in the race. Well handicapped, he's £7 well in. The worry would be for me, he's a very good jumper, but he's a bit safe and he spends a bit long in the air, and especially with the ground forecast to be soft. He's only a little horse, and trust me, when you ride around there, those fences become a lot bigger when the ground is.
But doesn't
deeper.
he want soft ground?
I know
hasn't he won despite the ground?
Yeah, the ground is not an issue. The trip's not an issue. The fact that the horse has got a lot of ability is not an issue. But the worry would be for me that he might spend too long in the air jumping, and because of that, add that into the weight, and it's going to be very hard for him.
Right, Sean Boyce, the stats man. He comes into this race as a national winner, as we know.
Yeah.
He's got a jockey that's won the race.
Yeah.
He's got a trainer that's won the race.
Yeah.
He's won the Gold Cup. He's a certainty, isn't he?
Mick makes a good point about if it comes up soft, it's going to really put pressure on his jump. He's going to make the fences bigger. He's not a big horse. He's carrying 11 stone 10. Now, we used to say a few years ago you couldn't win it with 11 stone more. The last few years that's been proven to be false. But however, it's raining still this week. If it comes up on the soft side, which it looks like doing, do you really want to back a horse carrying 11 stone 10 to win a Grand National? But even more pertinent, it's not really a stat. It's to do with the way they've campaigned this horse. If you look at all his big successes, when he won the Lexus on good ground, he had a couple of spins over hurdles before that, and then they gave him 2.5 months off. And John Joe said he wants minding between his races. He needs a lot of time. This is not minding. He's running a Gold Cup, and he's had a really, really hard race in a Gold Cup, and now he's coming to carry 11 stone 10 in a Grand National with no experience over those fences. I think he's... you'd be foolish to say he can't win, because he is, as Mick says, he's probably the best horse in the race. The ground... Two of his best runs are not on soft ground. Obviously, his Gold Cup win, his Lexus winner, both on better ground. But 11 stone 10, unproven over the fences. But more than anything, the way they've campaigned this horse suggests that before all of his big runs previously, he's had a couple of light races over hurdles. This is absolutely the polar opposite. I can't have him. I don't think he'll.
Can I just throw in a little bit of a googly here? Bred by JP, bred by Noreen McManus. John Joe would be under no pressure to run this horse. None whatsoever. After a Gold Cup win and a Lexus win, there's no pressure on him to run him in the National just for the sake of having a runner in the race. JP's got lots of other horses he can run in the race. John Joe wouldn't even contemplate running him unless he felt that this horse was in tip-top form. And that's the one thing. I keep saying he's going to struggle over the obstacles, but I keep going back to the fact that I just can't see John Joe wanting to run him unless he's 100% happy with it.
Well, my point, Boyce, is exactly that. If you owned this horse and traded him, and he'd plainly come out of it. Tony McCoy told me last week he thinks John Joe, actually on the quiet, thinks he's a better horse now. He seems to be, for whatever reason, thriving. Well, look, you've got to run. You've got to run.
I'm not criticising the decision to run at all. All I'm doing is looking at the profile of the horse and how they've campaigned him all the way through. Now, it might be, before we won the Lexus, we all said he won't win on good ground, didn't we? and he proved us wrong. So maybe he doesn't need big breaks between his races. Maybe he can run a really, really hard attritional race in a Gold Cup and come and back up and carry 11 stone 10 in a Grand National. Maybe that could happen. But I'd say the odds are very much against it. I'd want 20 to 1 plus that would happen. It's much more likely that it won't.
Well, look, Synchronized has got his gold medal of obviously winning the Cheltenham Gold Cup. But there have been a lot of horses trained specifically for this Grand National, one of which, of course, is Junior. Let's hear from his jockey, Tom Scudamore.
He was very, very happy with him at home. I mean, I've seen him about. His last ride's mad every day, Ellery Apps, and he's looking fantastic, in really good order, and can't wait for a week Saturday.
Now, you've only ridden him twice. What have you learned about him so far as a ride, and with your experience of the National and the Aintree fences, is he suitable?
Yeah, he's always struck me as ideal national type. I've been in a lucky position, although I haven't ridden them on the day. I've ridden a couple of horses that have been placed in Grand Nationals, and on one occasion won a national. So he's very similar to the likes of Blowing Wind and Bindery, and the fact that he's very, very intelligent horse to ride, very straightforward, and again he can cope with the big day and the big occasion. He's won at Royal Ascot, he's won at the Cheltenham Festival. He's just he's just a big occasion horse and thrives on the big day.
And what is it that you actually need to get over the Aintree fences? What is it? Is it a certain nimbleness, or is it a certain agility? Is it a certain cleverness?
It's all of those things rolled into one. Obviously you need horses that are brave, that aren't afraid of anything, and again, you need the nimbleness and above all the intelligence. They need to go and think for themselves and sort themselves out. And there's plenty going on, not just with the fences, but loose horses and things like that all around. And there's plenty of things going on. So Junior is certainly a very intelligent horse. He seems, as I said before, he seems to thrive in the big day, and I see no reason why he won't take to Liverpool. In fact, I think he'll thrive on it.
Well, it was a good comeback to action for Junior. He's put up a cracking effort here at Doncaster. Fitzy, you were here. This is a horse who's won at the Cheltenham Festival, won at Royal Ascot. He's an extraordinary horse.
There's no doubt about it. He's a classy horse, and they're the sorts you need. Time and time again, when you look back at the results of previous national winners, they're all horses that have got good bits of form. We're just seeing the horse falling. Ikorodu Road is the horse that just narrowly defeats him, and that form was Frank next time. He won a big handicap chase in Newbury for Matt Shepherd, Ikorodu Road, so the form's got a good look to it. The worry would be for me with Junior is he's jumping. I think sometimes he can be a little bit flippy through the top of the obstacles. You can't do that round Aintree.
He's very straight-backed horse, isn't he, Mick? But by that we mean he doesn't round over his fences. He's
like that.
Boise, it's not our problem. Tom Scudimore's got to ride him. But do you fancy him to get round?
No. For the same reasons, I backed him that day, funnily enough, at Doncaster, because I thought he was a nice price, and he showed great attitude, didn't he? Because he looked beaten several times in the race, and he kept on finding and kept on digging in for Tom Scudimore, which is a great asset to have. Bubba Watson springs to mind, doesn't he? Who wins the Masters at Augusta, but technically looks very, very odd indeed. And Junior has his own way of doing things. I think it's fair to say you wouldn't show anyone a video of that and say that's how you want a staying chaser to jump. But he does get round, doesn't he? And Mick says he's got some class. The worry for me is whether you can get away with that in a Grand National, particularly with his relative inexperience. I don't know what you think, Mick, but there's a trade-off here between class and potential. But class, like Synchronised actually, but inexperience. And again, going back, looking at previous results, time and time again, the horses that actually come out on top tend to have run 10, 12, 15, 20 times over fences, don't they? Well, look, come on, let's move on to last year's winner then, because Ballard Briggs, obviously, as we saw, he took to it like duck to walk to last year. He's got to be £9 better this time around. But having said that, Boyce, it was start for you. He'd have won last year with £9 more, wouldn't he? Wouldn't he? Possibly. And the big thing in his favour is Donald McCain has prepared him specifically for this race, and they've known all along that he's going to be carrying. I think they were pleasantly surprised that he wasn't actually top weight for the race. So they know what they're up against, and all the reports have been positive. Every time I've asked Donald McCain the question when interviewing him for At the Races, he said he's grand, he's coming along perfectly. However, it's a very, very tough thing to do, isn't it, to win back-to-back nationals, and that's against him. Wouldn't surprise me at all to see him run a big race. It's a hedge hunter kind of situation. He's a stone bonker to be in the money, isn't he? I would say I'm not sure there's any such thing, but if there was, you would say maybe he is, because he has that profile, doesn't he? He's going to go close, but you'd be a bit surprised if there weren't one or two lurking in there that are just too well treated compared to him. Fitzy, the stats for horses coming back and even winning a race are abysmal. Which is obviously against Ballard Briggs. We've also got Monmouth there, don't forget, as well. What's your view on Donald's horse?
I like him. And I think, you know, if I was a jockey going into the race and I was trying to pick something that's going to give me a good ride and have a winning chance, he would definitely be one of the ones I'd want to be on. And, you know, for me, I think you've just said it. I think if you're looking for a horse that's a value bet to finish in the money, he's it.
You like bowling googlies as well. What about Weird Al?
Well, the interesting thing was, I was at the unveiling of the weights. Donald McCain was excited about Weird Al. He really thought he had the right profile for the race, classy sort of horse. Saw him, of course, winning the Charlie Hall up at Wetherby, so you know he's good enough. Thing is, disappointing runner. Did he? You know, somebody said, did he bleed?
He bled in the Nash. He definitely bled, and he bled in the Gold Cup for the second year running, and that's the worry. Now I left the children's inheritance at Cheltenham with Weird Al. I was all over him for the Gold Cup because I thought the way the race had panned out, I was against the front two in the market. It was open for something else to win it, and I'm convinced that had he not burst, he would have been that horse because he's got so much ability, this horse. But can you back a horse over 4.5 miles if he's bled? Mind you, he's tended not to burst on flattish tracks.
Well, you look, when horses bleed, you never know. We've got to move on, lads, because we've got to concentrate on the Irish Challenge, and of course Ruby Walsh. Fantastic record in the race. He's decided to go for On His Own. He's bypassed his father's horse, Seabass. Is this the right decision, Boise?
I think it's probably the percentage call, isn't it? I think On His Own, most people thought this is the one from the Mullins team. I don't know for sure how free a hand Ruby has in a situation like that, whether he can actually say to Willie Mullins and to Paul Nicholls, I'm swerving all of yours to ride for my dad.
You're right. I think there's a certain amount of loyalty attached to this.
Oh, it's got to be, hasn't it? These are the guys that pay the bills all year round. So having said that, it wouldn't have been a terrible decision to get on this, would it? I mean, you'd be pretty happy to be riding this thing, wouldn't you?
I watched the whole of this race yesterday again, and I was a big fan of this horse before Princess of Beauchesne was out. I thought that, you know, this was the horse of the Mullins camp I'd want to be on, and I see nothing to change my mind. He jumps really well. He gets in deep and gets up, and they're the types you want. He goes on soft ground. Got a good profile coming into it.
Well, the horse that he obviously turned down is Seabass, now going to be ridden by his sister. Comes into an extraordinary run of form. He's won on 7 occasions. Boise, is he good enough?
Well, he's very progressive.
Sorry, boys. Just watch the way this horse jumps here. See the way he puts down there and comes up in the air. I spoke to Ruby about this, and I asked him, you know, about this horse jumping around, because I was a little bit disappointed with how he jumped at Naas. He said this is over 2 miles, bad ground, and they're quite big fences up the straight at Naas. And Ruby said, I've got no worries about his jumping. And, you know,
he did fiddle that last one, didn't he? But, as you say, has a horse ever 1 or 2 mile race and come in and run the ground?
But they do funny things, the Irish, don't they? Preparing the horses.
Absolutely, and going into that race, we all said this is going to be far too short for him, and he showed tremendous attitude. He's one of those you couldn't rule out because of who trains him, because Ted Walsh has won the race before. He's amazingly progressive. He's a Hunt Ball type horse. He's just gone rocketing through the weights and continued to progress. But that trip question would be a slight question mark. You know, again, you know, going back to the trends and the stats, you want horses who have won over 3 miles plus, preferably more than once, and he doesn't tick that box.
Right, we've had all the ifs and buts. Will he stay? Will he jump round? Will he handle the ground? I want a one horse off the pair of you to win the Grand National. Fitzy, start with you.
On his own.
On his own. There we go. Boise?
I'm going to give you one slightly left of field for me, which is Dezi Hughes' Rare Bob, who ticks a lot of the trends. He won a very, very good champion chase, 3 mile champion chase as a younger horse. He hasn't quite recovered that form, but he has run over the national fences creditably, if not brilliantly, in the past. And I love Dezi Hughes' way of bringing a horse into the national. He's gone close before. I think this could be finally Dezi's year. If it comes up soft, that won't stop him either, and he'd be a very big price.
Yeah, Rare Bob then, and for what it's worth, a horse I haven't mentioned either. I quite think that Chicago Grey's got a good chance. Jumping is obviously a slight question mark, but he stays, and that's what you need.